Hello everyone. Thank you so much for coming back for to this YouTube channel. Today's topic will be the integumentary system. So we will dive deep as to what is it that is called the integumentary system. So this topic will also cover the functions and of the skin, the factors and everything that relates to the integumentary system. So this video will cover the structure as well, the structure of the skin, the epidermis definition, the factors that affect the skin as I just said. So let's talk about the structure of the skin. Um, so the prerequisite knowledge for this, I believe that you should be knowing the skin. You should know the cells, the type of tissues. You need to understand all that, because if you do not have that basic knowledge, it will be somehow difficult for you to understand this content here. And you can pause the video anytime, anywhere, wherever you feel like you are lost. And please also refer to your books, the prescribed books, for further clarity. But this video will help you in your studies when you are preparing for your test, or when you got some information that you do not understand. This is the right video for you to dive in and understand that part. So here, the skin is the largest organ in the body. So this is just an estimation that the skin, remember that the skin covers the whole body, including the membranes. The parts of the lips, inside parts of the lips, are still parts of or continuation of the skin. So that's why they say that it also covers the membrane. So it is said that it's about 1.5 to 2 square meters in adults. So here, this is an estimation to adults. The reason they approximate or they estimate to this range of 1.5 to 2 meters squared is because obviously people are not of the same body size. All right, so it is said that in other certain areas, the skin got some accessories. You know that the hair is part of the skin, the nails also, and there are also glands which are within the skin. So these are structures. So I separated them this way so that whenever you are asked about the accessory structures of the skin, you should know that it's the glands, it's the hair, as well as the nails. There are two main layers of the skin. You need to download the picture of the skin, of the main structure of the skin, or else you can refer in your book, so that whatever that you read or you look or you read here will be in line. You should be able to visualize it from the book as well, because if you do not look at the picture right now, it will be more confusing for you. So you need to just download the picture from Google, or you just look at your anatomy book or notes. All right, so we say there is epidermis and dermis. These are two main layers. There are other layers, just that these ones are the two main. There is epidermis, there is dermis, then underneath the dermis there is subcutaneous tissue. But in this case, we will focus on the epidermis. Then on the next video it will be dermis. On the next video it will be functions of the skin. Then we continue and so on and so. But I will definitely be updating you of everything else that will be coming, because along the week I will be posting something that is not within this topic. So just keep your eyes open to this channel for everything that I'll be posting. So between the skin and underlying structures, there are subcutaneous layer, which is composed of areolar tissue and adipose tissue. Remember that I said the prerequisite knowledge that you need to have here, you need to understand the tissues your first chapter, the first chapters in most books of anatomy and physiology, they talk of the cells, they talk of the tissues. So you need to have that. So you need to know that between the skin and the underlying structures, there is this layer which is called subcutaneous layer. This subcutaneous layer got two tissues. There's areolar tissue and adipose tissue. Remember, adipose tissue, it's called the fat. It's the one that makes you warm. It's the one that makes people to be obese. So underneath the skin, there will be that thickness of fat that are hiding there. Next part, let's dive into epidermis now. What is it that we call epidermis? Epidermis is the most superficial layer and is composed of stratified keratinized squamous epithelium. That's also, you need to understand the cells, type of cells, the tissues, because now we are talking of the stratified. Stratified means different layers. There are so many layers, a layer on top of another layer, so it makes that, it gives that definition called stratified. So they say that the superficial layer is made up or is composed of this stratified keratinized squamous epithelium. Then this layer, this epidermis layer, it varies, its thickness varies. So you will see that on the hands, the palm of the hands and feet, the thickness is bigger than on the back of your hand. So that is what they mean if they talk of thickness that is varying. So the palm of the hands and the toes, the feet, the soles of the feet, you'll remember, you can check the soles of the feet, they are more hardened. So that means the thickness is much big on that side. So it is also said that there are no blood vessels or nerve endings in the epidermis, but its deeper layers are bathed in interstitial fluid from the dermis, which provides oxygen and nutrients and drains away as lymph. So if right now you can put the sole of your foot into warm water or hot water, and at the other hand you put the back of the hand in warm or hot water, you'll see which one will quickly or instantly feel heat, or that heat of the, or that temperature of the water. It's all that depends on the thickness and on the absence of the nerves. So there are no nerve endings on this epidermis, hence it is not easy to feel on this thickened layer. It's not easy to feel the pain if you are just dipping yourself in the hot water. So there are no blood vessels. This will help you to understand the structure of the dermis, of the epidermis. We said it's a stratified keratinized squamous epithelium. We said it varies. Its thickness varies from being thickest in the palms of the hands and soles of the feet. And now we are saying that in the epidermis layer there are no blood vessels and there are no nerve endings. But if in its deeper layer there is an interstitial fluid, this interstitial fluid comes from the dermis. Remember that these layers, the dermis is the one below the epidermis. So this interstitial fluid comes from the one which is below. It's giving it to the layer which is superficial, in this case an epidermis. This interstitial fluid help with the improvision of the oxygen and nutrients, and also it drains away everything that is not needed on the epidermis. So there are several layers of cells in the epidermis which extend from the deepest germinative. This germinative layer, it is also known as germinative. So I also written germinative layer here, but it is also recently known as basal layer. So this basal layer is the most superficial stratum, which is also known as a thick horny layer. So it's very important to make sure that you note this, because when it comes in your test, then you don't want to be confused which word is this now? I do not know. So we're saying that the epidermis got several layers, which these several layers of cells, it's made up of several layers of cells. These layers, they extend from the bottom. Remember that epidermis is on the top, and below there is dermis. So these cells, they are generated, or they come from the layer below the epidermis, which is the dermis. This layer is called basal layer. So this basal layer will they say that it's given to the superficial stratum corneum. This stratum corneum is called a thick horny layer. So the cells of epidermis originate in the basal layer. The basal layer is made up of, okay, I already said that the cells that are forming the epidermis, they come from this layer called basal layer. This basal layer now, what is the structure of this basal layer? This basal layer now is made up of cuboidal. You will remember the squamous and cuboidal cells. So this one is made of cuboidal, nucleated. I'm sure you'll remember from the cell formation. So there is nucleus, so cuboidal, nucleated, highly active epithelial cells that are constantly dividing. Remember that for this epidermis to exist, so there must be continuous or consistently addition of new cells that are developing or that are pushed to the surface of the skin. As the new cells are formed, the old cells are pushed upwards, away from the basal layer and further from their blood and nutrient supply. So it's still the repetition of what I just said. So these cells, whenever there is a new cell formed from the dermis, they are pushed to the surface layer. Remember that we said things come from the basal layer to the superficial layer. And we say that in the epidermis, there will be no blood vessels, there are no nerve endings, there is also, there is no nerve endings, and there is also no much of nutrient supply. So here they say that when these old cells are pushed upwards, they will leave the blood which they were in. They will leave the blood and they will leave the nutrient supply. Epidermal cells undergo gradual change as they progress towards the surface. So this is not just a minute thing whereby, no, these old cells, they just pop up to the surface. No. It's gradual. It happens step by step. It takes time. So that's what they say. They are saying epidermal cells undergo gradual change. As the old cells progress to the surface of the skin, they are flat. They become flat, thin, non-nucleated. Remember that we said earlier on those ones were nucleated. These ones now are non-nucleated. They are dead cells. They are squams. Remember, I said that squams means scale or flake. So when these old cells come to the surface, they will be flat, they will be thin, there will be no nucleus, and they will have those squams on them. They say that in which the cytoplasm has been replaced by the fibrous protein keratin. The surface cells are constantly rubbed off and replaced by those beneath. It's still the repetition of what I just said. So it's very important also to know that complete replacement of the epidermis takes about a month. So we say this process is gradual. So it takes a month for whole of this process to happen, from older cells coming upward to the superficial layer. It takes about a month. Now let's talk. Remember that you should be looking at the pictures or the picture of the main structure of the skin so that you can understand and relate all this. You are allowed to pause the video and look and read. You can even scroll back and fast forward. It's up to you. Upward projections of the dermal layer. Now I'm talking of the dermal layer in this statement. Upward projection of the dermal layer. This upward projection of the dermal layer, there is a dermal, check the picture there, there is a dermal papillae structure there. It's called dermal papilla. So this dermal papillae anchor the dermis securely to the epidermis and allow passage and exchange of nutrients and waste to the lower parts of the epidermis. So this is very important to note as well. The relationship, the communication between the epidermis and the dermis, how is it happening? How does it happen? Excuse me. There is that dermal papillae. This dermal papillae, it secures, it's a projection between these two layers. So it joins the epidermis, which is the top layer, until the dermis. And for this projection, it makes these two layers to be well secured together. And since it is hollow, let's just take it like that. It is hollow. It allows the exchange of nutrients and waste. Remember that there is waste that comes off the skin. So for you to see the sweat on the body, it uses these passages. So it acts as a passage between the epidermis layer, which is the superficial layer, and the dermis, which is the underneath layer. So this arrangement stabilizes the two layers, preventing damage to the shear forces. So it secures them. It still makes the skin the way it is. Otherwise, it will be so slippery. This, you can see this when people are having problem with, the skin conditions. But we will see that later, and also if people have sustained burns. But this is the topic for other day. So whenever you get burnt, maybe by cooking oil or water or any maybe a chemical, you've heard of something called blister. The blister develop when the trauma causes separation of the dermis and epidermis, and then there is a serous fluid which collects between the two layers. So there is this cover of the skin. Then between these layers, the epidermis and dermis, when there is trauma, something injures or you are burnt by water or anything, so there is this fluid called serous fluid. It's escape now. It's escape. When it escape, it will be formed. It will form that thing called blister, which is there is fluid. So that fluid is the serous fluid, the fluid that is in the blister. And you know that you are not supposed to poke that blister, because when you poke the blister, you are opening the opportunities or opportunistic microorganism which can cause infection. So the body got its repairing mechanism whereby it can reabsorb that water back into the body rather than you busting it out. So it's normally not advisable to bust it out. In areas where the skin is subject to greater wear and tear, which is the palms and fingers of the hands and soles of the feet, the epidermis is thicker. So this one is natural, and it makes sense. The hands are normally used regularly. The feet, underneath of the feet, we use them a lot. So these areas which are susceptible to greater wear and tear, they do not have the hair, and they are also having those thickened prominent layers. So you will see that in these areas the dermal papillae are arranged in parallel lines, giving the skin a surface a rich appearance. It's just the repetition of what I say. So the difference here is that in this hardened surface under the palm of the hands and underneath the soles of the foot, there the dermal papillae are now arranged in a parallel lines. They are not just projected upward like the back of the skin, like on the thighs and the back of your, I mean the chest and all these other parts of this body. But here, on the soles of the feet and palms, now these papillae are arranged in a parallel line, and that's how it gives it. They say it gives that rigid or that sort of rough appearance compared to the back of the hand. So the pattern of ridges on the fingertips is unique to every individual, and impression made by them is called the fingerprint. So since we say these dermal papillae are lined in parallel lines, they now give each and every individual the unique impression, and this unique impression is called the fingerprint. So the fingerprint, we get them from the fingers and the palm of the hand and the fingers. So this is because of these dermal papillae. So now you know how fingerprints are formed. Now let's the last objective, the skin color. What's factors that affect the skin color? We see other people will be too dark, people will having maybe the dark face, like the dark knees, the dark arms and all that. Others will have some spots of lightness and I mean complexion there and there, not having even color. What is it that affects all that? Why do we see other people having this type of the skin? Why is the skin different, having some spots and then there? So the first factor, this is number one factor, it's a melanin. What is it that is called a melanin? A melanin is a dark pigment. That this dark pigment is actually derived from the amino acid, which is called tyrosine. So this amino acid secretes, is the one that derives this melanin or this pigment, and then it's secreted by what? By melanocytes, which are found in the basal layer or the germinative layer. And this melanin or this dark pigment will now be absorbed by the surrounding epithelial cells. You already know what's the epithelial cell from the cells topic that I've said you should have the prerequisite knowledge before you engage in this chapter. So now we've talked of melanin as the main factor. We said melanin is derived by the amino acid tyrosine and is secreted by melanocytes in the deep germinative layer. So these melanocytes are found in the germinative layer or a basal layer, which is the layer below, just below the epidermis. So it's actually this basal layer separates the epidermis and the dermis. The amount of this dark pigment or the amount of melanin is to say that it differs from human to human. I already say that, and it is associated with genetic or with genetic code. That okay, in this case, this is the black person, this is the white person. Whenever they give offspring, then they will contain the code, genetic code from the black person, the code from the white person. Then they will give one offspring which will show these colors or this type of genes secreting this type of this amount of melanin. All right. Then the number of melanocytes is fairly constant. So the differences in color depend on the amount of melanin secreted. Normally, in normal circumstances, the melanin is well distributed throughout the whole body and it is evenly distributed. But you'll find that the knees, so it will depend on the certain circumstances, can be the environmental factor and all that, and the things that we use to apply the lotion and all that. But in most cases, in normal instances, melanin or this dark pigment is well distributed throughout the whole body. The function of this melanin pigment, what does it do in the body? It protects the skin from the harmful effects of ultraviolet ultraviolet rays in the sun. So when you go outside, this will protect you from being from the ultraviolet rays, not which are very harmful if you expose yourself to them. Hence, you'll see people with lower melanin, for instance, people with albinism, they are once they expose themselves to too much sunlight. So since they have insufficient melanin, so this will harm their skin, and this may even lead to skin cancer. So it is also said that for if you go to the sunlight, the synthesis or the manufacturing of melanin will be more. Hence, you know that when you go to the sun, you become more dark, whereas the person who's not on the sun is not as dark as the one who's on the sun. So once you expose yourself too much on the sun, the synthesis of melanin will be more than the person who is not outside. So the normal saturation. So in the human body, you've heard from the clinics or hospital when they are saying, oh no, we are checking blood and all that. So there is something called hemoglobin. So the normal saturation of hemoglobin and the amount of blood circulating in the dermis give white skin its pink color. So you'll know that whenever you are in the clinic, we normally do this when we want to check if someone is anemic, or this can be done when someone is pregnant or when someone has been stabbed and so forth. But this one checks the hemoglobin, which is the amount of blood and the amount of blood that is circulating in the body. So whenever there is something we call a capillary refill, when you just check if someone on the finger, when you press there, you release, then the blood must, or the skin must turn pink. Some will say maybe red, but we use the term pink. But once it's no longer turning pink, then it means that person have low hemoglobin in their body. So that's why we will find that the person now will need oxygen supplements or oxygen administration. You need maybe blood transfusion. So when oxygen saturation is very low, the skin may appear bluish. So once the person is, oxygen saturation is the measure of the oxygen in the human blood. So when it is low, normally once it is 90 and below, then that is an emergency. That person is running out of oxygen. So that's why you'll see people giving oxygen masks. They are having masks. They are supplemented. The problem might be with their respiratory system or any other causes. So cyanosis means that the person is having insufficient oxygen in the blood, and when the person is having insufficient oxygen in the blood, they become bluish. The lips, when you check the lips, all the membranous or orifices, you find them bluish. The lips will be bluish. You pull the conjunctiva, you'll see that this person is actually not having enough oxygen. So oxygen, remember that oxygen circulates with blood. So when you have insufficient red blood cells, also you'll have insufficient oxygen supply in the body. Excessive levels of bile pigment in blood and keratins in subcutaneous fat give the skin a yellowish color. When a person is having a condition whereby there is an excessive release of bile into the bloodstream, then also this will affect the skin. The skin will become yellowish in color. You can even see on the eyes will become yellowish. So this person will be said that he's having a condition called jaundice, whereby the bile is excessively excreted in the bloodstream, more than the normal expected. So this marks the end of this video, and I appreciate that you've watched until this far. Please like the video below, and also click subscribe so that whenever there is a new video coming that I'm posting, so that you'll get the notification. And thank you so much for watching. Till the next video, I will upload another video about the dermis and the functions. Thank you so much.